Welcome back. In this lesson, we are going to learn the knife tool by making a knife. Let's go ahead and get to cutting. First off, let's just do File, New, and General. Or if you're just now opening Blender, just do General. And let's go ahead and save it. So we'll do File, Save As, and we'll just call it Knife. So we don't need Suzanne, so let's delete Suzanne. And now what we're going to do is import a reference image. So I'll put a link to this image below and you can download it, or you can just go to the website and download it here. And we're just going to use the large PNG. And then back inside Blender, we're going to go to our top view with numpad 7, do Shift A, and we're going to add an image reference. And then just find where you saved the photo. Mine's right here, and load it. It's going to come in. Let's go ahead and rename it to, we'll call it reference photo. And it's going to be pretty small. So let's go to this little tab right here and increase it to maybe like 150. That's going to make it pretty large. And let's go back to our top view. And we're going to make a plane, kind of like what we did with the key, but we're going to use the knife tool today. So do Shift A, do Mesh, and a plane. And the plane's going to come in itty bitty. It's very small right here. But let's just crank that up to the same size as the photo, which is 150. So that's 150 millimeters. Hit Alt-C to go see-through mode. And let's go into edit mode and start knifing it up. So let's scale on the Y, so S-Y, and just scale it down to about the size of the knife here. And let's get to cutting. So down here we have the knife tool. It looks like a cube with some cuts in it, and that's pretty much what the knife tool does. It will just cut new geometry into your shapes or anything that you have, three-dimensional, flat. But today we're going to do it with the plane and just do it at its simplest form. So at its basic, you can just click on things and just chop, cut things, cut your mesh up into different things. So try that, just try and break through. It's actually going to make new geometry every time we cut, and then we can either hit enter or go back to the original one and it'll kind of link together. And notice it's still got a little string attached, but just tap enter and that will lock it in. And now if we go to point mode, you can see we've got all this new geometry here. So that's pretty much what it does, but we're going to use the knife tool to cut around the knife. So just undo that if you did anything. And what I want you to do is just try and cut this knife shape out of this plane in one go. So I'm going to turn my information panel off here just so you can see a little better. And let's get to cutting. And it doesn't have to be perfect. We can always come back and readjust. I'm just going to do like that. And just kind of get the basic shape of your tool here. And you can still move around while you're doing it. So notice I'm not doing it perfectly. It's just kind of just getting in the ballpark. And when you get close to the edge, you can, go ahead and click it to the original edge of the plane there. And just loop around the handle. This part has some like little peaks and valleys for the grip for your hand. So we'll just follow that. And when we come to the end here, we can just make it sharp like that. Just kind of, you can kind of see it'll like kind of magnetize to the first one. And we'll just click that. Notice we still have a little string hanging on and we can just hit enter. And there we go. We're done. We've made a knife. Just kidding. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but not really. So next what we're going to do is cut out some of these other shapes. So maybe a little bit of the handle here. And we can just go right from here. Just take it right there. And just cut it to there. Hit enter. Do the same thing here. And hit enter. And let's do the same thing here for the blade part. You can kind of see where the blade kind of dips down. So we'll just click here. Go up here. And just follow this little cut right there. enter. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and get these little circles. I'm going to save. And this, I'm just going to do this real rough. And then hit enter. And notice it cut out the geometry for us. It made some new lines. And that's just Blender trying to help us out and making the mesh work. So it needed to kind of connect to something. And so it just made it do it. And you can see as I get closer to that line, it kind of magnetizes to that. And this will work for three-dimensional objects too. Like if you're cutting something you've designed. So that'll work as well. So yeah, this is the knife tool. It's pretty fun. So now we've cut out everything. We've made our little slices here. Let's go into point mode. And all we have to do is go back to W for our selection tool. And just highlight some of these edges, hit X, and we're going to delete the vertices or the dots. So delete that one. We're going to delete that one. And it looks like the plane has disappeared, but there's actually a dot right here and right here. And we want to make sure we delete those. Otherwise, it's going to show up as non-manifold, points just floating in space. So make sure you delete those. Hit X, vertices. There we go. Now everything is complete. And so if you want, you can just go through and kind of make any adjustments to your knife. So I'm going to make mine a little pointier there. Maybe smooth this one out. So just go through and, make any final adjustments to your knife before we make it a three-dimensional object. So for this one, I'm just going to hit GG and slide it down. And if you want to add a dot in between these, you can click those two, go to Edge, and Subdivide. And notice we've got a new little dot that's appeared. So I'm just grabbing these, hitting G. These look pretty good. This one needs a little love here. And there we go. We've got a really cool knife. So now we're going to go into face mode, hit A to select all, and go to our extrude tool. So we can do extrude region. And I'm going to go to our perspective view and just grab this little thumbtack here and bring it on up. And we can do something around maybe like 6 millimeters on the Z. And there we go. I'm going to turn my X-ray off. Hey, we've got a really cool knife. So still needs a little bit of work. So let's add some stuff. So maybe for the blade, we can go into point mode. And what I'm going to show you here is the merge tool. So just click on one of these. Actually, before we do that, let's go to our selection tool. So just hit W because we don't want to extrude these. We just want to select them. So we'll just shift click, select these two, hit M on your keyboard, and that will bring up the merge option. And so we want to merge at the center, in the center of these two dots right in here. And that's going to make our knife blade. So again, just hit M and we're going to say merge at the center, bloop, just like that. And do the same thing here. M at center. And now, and notice we've got a nice little blade emerging. This one and this one. We'll merge at center. Here and here. Merge at center. Here. Merge at center. And there we go. So now we've got a really cool knife blade. And we're getting some kind of artifacting here. It kind of clamped it a little too tight because we didn't have enough geometry. So let's try and fix that. Maybe just go into edge mode. And I just double clicked or alt clicked on this edge. So it should be everything we just made. Yeah, so it's selected from here all the way to here. And let's just use our offset edge loop cut right here. And so I still have it selected. And then we're going to just shift or just click and drag and just kind of get a little blade going there. And maybe make it even so it's nice and even. And then we can adjust as we need to. Or maybe something in there. Maybe like 0.79 or 0.75. Yeah, that looks pretty cool. That's just going to help a little bit. Just going to give it a little bit of an edge there. Now let's switch to our selection tool. Go to face mode and maybe grab this guy here. And let's just extrude that. You can hit E or just extrude a little bit there, maybe S to scale it, and just make a little bump for our knife there. And I'm going to leave it flat on this side just because I want it to easily 3D print as we're, it'll have a nice flat bottom. And I'm going to turn off the reference photo so we can actually see our knife there. And then next, let's use our extrude manifold if you have it. If not, you can just select these, just hold shift. Maybe turn on snapping. And what we're going to do is try and push these through to the bottom and kind of make holes all the way through. So just click and drag. I'm going to see-through mode, so I didn't go far enough. Well, there we go. So notice it just snapped to the bottom. We'll turn it back on. And now we should be able to just erase only the faces. Hey! And there we go. We've got some super cool holes that go through the knife. And that's looking pretty awesome. So now let's go ahead and get this ready for 3D printing. So make sure you save. We can rename this knife. There's our knife. We'll get our tools within for information, go to 3D print, and check all. And it says we have a few non-manifold edges, so let's just click on that. And do, so it's just these two that were left over from our extrude manifold. So let's just hit X and delete those edges. Check all. Hey, there we go. So now it is manifold. It says we've got some non-flat faces, which are these here. So let's just go to cleanup, do distorted, bloop, and that has fixed it for us. Do check all, and says that we have some sharp edges, which we should because it's a knife, but let's see where they are. So it says it's right here. Some sharp edges. It's a little too sharp. So maybe let's bevel them. Just take this, bevel them out a little bit, and check all, see what that does. Hey, there we go. So now everything has been fixed. I'm actually going to grab some of these points here because if we look on the side view or the front view, so from the front view, I'm just going to grab these here. Go to selection mode, grab these here as well. So I have both and do scale on the Z. I'm just going to bring those in just a little bit so it's a little easier for the printer. Scale Z, so maybe like a 45-degree angle, something like that. Check all. And there we go. So everything is manifold and fixed and ready for 3D printing. So let's go ahead and go to export, to Blender where we want to save them, hit accept, and export. So that is looking pretty cool. Definitely wouldn't be the way I would normally make a knife blade, but this is pretty fun, I think, just to do a knife from a knife tool. So I'm going to use the Prusa slicer, add a file, and let's just bring in our knife. Hey, there it is. Looking pretty good. And for this one, I may do a higher resolution, maybe like 0.1. And then for the infill, let's do some gyroid. Let's get it funky here. And I think I'm going to use support material just for the blade. And maybe a few layers for the raft. So let's go ahead and slice it up. And that looks pretty awesome. So let's go ahead and print that thing.